Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Joe Emilio Show. I'm your host, Joe Emilio. Welcome back. Finally, load shedding not happening in the evening at the time when I can do my show. So I'm finally doing a show. Sorry that I haven't been streaming. I'm so excited, ladies and gentlemen. We got a very full show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking about Bheki Mahlobo. We're going to be talking about Cyril Ramaphosa. We're going to be talking about Petrol price. And we're also going to be talking about 818 days, ladies and gentlemen, of what I like to call tyranny. I'm going to have some guests on my show later on tonight to ask if South Africa will survive. We're going to answer that and a whole lot more coming up, so don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It feels good to be live again. Man, it's been a while, I think. It's been like a week, I think. Load shedding, man. It's been rough in South Africa. I don't know anybody who might be watching, who might be out of South Africa. Load shedding is basically blackouts, rolling blackouts. We have them quite badly. It's gone to stage 6. Some areas of the country have no electricity for up to 5 hours. 5 hours, not in the day, 5 hours at once, and then they get 2 hours of electricity, and then it's gone for 4 hours again. I don't know how people are surviving. I hope you're keeping warm. But yeah, unfortunately, for the past week, load shedding has been at the time slot where I'm supposed to do the show. So unfortunately, I've had to move things and just adjust accordingly. I'm so happy that I was able to do this show because later on tonight, ladies and gentlemen, at 8 p.m., I'm going to be joined by Rob Hutchinson, Koketso Resane from Manpatria. Rob Hutchinson's from DRSA. And unfortunately, Bheki cannot join tonight. He sends his regards and his deepest apologies. I tried to find a replacement for him, but unfortunately I could not. It was too late of a notice for some people. I mean, I really tried. I went into my contacts, man. I asked Gabriel Kraus to come on. I asked David Ansar to come on. I asked Chris Hatting, who I haven't had on my show yet, to come on, and a few other guys, and unfortunately they all had plans already. But it's okay. Bheki is very, very sorry that he can't make it tonight. It's unfortunate. Would have loved to have him on the show, but Rob Hutchinson and Koketso and I will tackle the issue at hand, ladies and gentlemen. And the issue at hand is basically it's been 818 days. All right. The moment that the mask mandates and social distancing and the cap on gatherings was lifted finally in South Africa, basically the last of the regulations of lockdown was lifted, was a total of 818 days, ladies and gentlemen. 818 days that we had to endure these ridiculous regulations. And what has the damage been? What does South Africa look like after lockdown? Is it a place that is going to see prosperity? Are we going to survive? Or has the ANC destroyed this country, this beautiful country, to the point of no return? We're going to discuss that. We're going to look at a lot of things. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're basically going to recap what happened in the 818 days and discuss what maybe we can do to try and turn things around. Is there something we can do? I don't know. We'll talk about it, and I hope you guys also tune in. Stay tuned to be a part of that conversation. Now, before I get to the comments, I see a lot of them coming in. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and don't forget to like. But very quickly, before I forget, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I have a fight against cancel culture. So please, if you want to help me win this fight against cancel culture, I have less than a month to come up with this money. So please help. I just basically, if 500 people just give $60, I've reached my goal, and we're sorted. So for those of you who have been donating, thank you guys so much. You really helped me out. But if there's anybody that wants to help, please do so. Link is in the description, ladies and gentlemen. All the details are on this Quicket Fund Me page. You can watch all these videos. Like, the whole thing will take you 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to get through. And then if you want to help, then by all means, please help. I don't even want your sausage. I'd rather you donate whatever you can to that fund, please. It's greatly important. So thank you in advance if you do. Now, before I get into some of the things I want to talk about tonight, I'm going to get to some of the comments. All right, so Dylan is in the house. Hello, Dylan. Haven't seen you in a while. Don't call me I'm not that old. Hindu saying Loadshedding galore. Hello, Hindu. Good to see you here. Amy LaRue, ladies and gentlemen, in the house, and saying I'll donate when I get paid month end. Of course, no worries. Not a problem at all. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the fight. Almost there, ladies and gentlemen. Almost at the end of the road. But yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to waste too much time on that. Let's get into some of the headlines very quickly. There's a very big headline today about Bheki, which I'm going to get into at the end. So I want to get through some of this stuff as quickly as possible. First thing I saw earlier today, Ramaphosa wants a tougher stance on alcohol in South Africa with new rules proposed. Look, you all know about this whole tavern thing that happened, which is horrific. And even there's like so many stories going around right now about what happened. But Cyril has basically taken that story and politicized it. And now, because of whatever happened at that tavern, he wants, he's blaming alcohol. He's blaming alcohol. And what he basically wants is this. Increasing the drinking age to 21 years, which, I'm going to be honest, may not be a bad thing. I'm just going to say it. If 18 till, what is it, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 years, you really, it's not that big of a difference. You know what I mean? And let's be honest. Kids get a hold of alcohol, whether you have laws or not. But this is where, this is a point I'm going to get to. So, the introduction of a 100-meter radius limitation of trade around educational and religious institutions. Okay. That's another issue, but anyway. Banning of any alcohol sales and advertising on social and small media. Wow, that's... So... alcohol companies can't advertise on social media basically anymore. That's a bit of a tough one. That I think, okay. The introduction of a new liability clause for alcohol sellers. Okay. So while all this stuff may sound nice, okay, to some people, I see issues with this. I see the government trying to control a lot more. The government is not stupid, or is not as stupid as we think they are. They know their people, all right? And when I say their people, I mean South Africans. I'm not talking about a specific group of people. I'm talking about all South Africans. All South Africans love to drink, okay? Yes, I know there are people that don't drink, and there are the sober people and all that stuff. Okay, fine. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the general population that do enjoy a good drink every now and again. They like to drink at a rugby game. They like to drink when they go out to a braai, or they drink at the club, or what have you. And then there's thousands, if not millions, of people that do this almost on a daily basis, right? So increasing the drinking age to 21 years, not necessarily a bad thing, okay? I would tend to kind of agree with that, but let's be honest. The drinking age right now is 18. Kids younger than that are still getting hold of alcohol. I don't think it's necessarily the government that needs to come in and tell people, oh, you can only be 18 or 21 or whatever have you. It's up to the parents to control their kids and make sure that they don't get, out of hand. But that's a whole nother separate issue on its own. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if we're really addressing the problem here. The 100-meter radius limitation, again, sounds like a good idea, but we have a government that doesn't know how to implement anything, for that matter. So who's going to listen? Who's going to listen? Who's going to keep an eye on people and 100 meters? Who's going to do that? Nobody. Banning of alcohol sales and advertising on social media. This is going to cripple the alcohol industry. How are they going to advertise? Okay, I don't know. I don't think the advertising is the problem. I really don't. That's not the issue here. The introduction of a new liability clause for alcohol sellers. That could be anything. Okay. That could be, I don't know, if I don't know if there's any underage drinking. Maybe they hold the companies liable. I don't know how they would do that. But that also opens a whole new can of worms, and maybe it comes with a fine, which means more money in the government's pockets. So of course, this this is going to be interesting. Draftings are now advanced stage, should be completed imminently. Next step, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we'll probably, Dearest A will probably, do something about this, call people to comment, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes of it. This is some other stuff that is going to maybe be in there that they're discussing. Such as ensuring that a record of liquor sales is kept by outlets, prescribed, measured, blah, blah. Permanently. Here's the thing, right? Here's. I'm not even going to read the rest of that. Here's my thing, right? First of all, the president's worried about alcohol regulations and rules when he should be worried about keeping the lights on. I see you, Amy. It's a very good point. Secondly, you just need, you don't like, this is a very, very complex issue. Okay, alcohol, underage drinking, drunk driving, all that stuff. If you had the foundation of being able to implement a sufficient and respected law enforcement, then people wouldn't break the law too much now, would they? If you have a law enforcement that is able to uphold the law, and quite sufficiently, people won't do stupid shit. And that is the biggest problem. I mean, there's other problems, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's the only problem. I'm not saying that once law enforcement is fixed, then underage drinking and alcoholism stops. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that's a big part of what you need to enforce even the new rules that you want to come up with. Like even if you were to implement the 21-year rule tomorrow, right? People are still gonna drink, dude. It's not gonna stop. You don't just make a law and then people, now now that it's 21, now we're gonna stop this. You found our weakness, Cyril. 18 we weren't afraid, but 21 we're afraid now. No, you need good institutions to uphold the law. And right now you don't have that, which is why more people are drinking, which is why there's craziness in the world, which is why things are collapsing and corruption is happening. So yeah, anyway, this alcohol stuff, probably just a distraction, more politicking on Cyril's point or Cyril's campaign. I don't know what he's probably trying to get sympathy from some parents. I don't know. Whoever thinks that Cyril's going to solve any problems, they're kidding themselves. but I just thought I would bring that to your attention. Another thing that is important that you guys might want to know about is petrol price. Yes, dreaded petrol price, ladies and gentlemen. 3 big changes planned for South Africa's petrol price. Petrol price is going up tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be cray-cray because petrol price, I'm just going to skip to where they mention. So an increase, 2.57, blah, blah, blah. So fuel is going to be 26.74 Rand, ladies and gentlemen, in Gauteng. And another increase, well, that's 95 petrol. 93 petrol will be pushed to 26.31. So either way, 26 Rand. Ladies and gentlemen, petrol price is officially more expensive than minimum wage. That is how serious the situation is. I don't give a damn about what other thing, because they got like, they're saying things like, oh, they want to implement like the possible introduction to a price cap on the petrol. Don't get me wrong, that's a good idea. Is it going to happen? I doubt it. A proposal to stop publishing guidance on diesel prices. Like, you know, these are all things that people have been saying that they should do for a very long time. Has the ANC listened? No. Is the ANC going to listen? Probably not. I wouldn't hold my breath. Like, it's great that they're bringing this up and that this guy is trying to make this happen. But it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. Probably not going to happen. All you guys need to know is this is the price of petrol for the next month. For the next month, ladies and gentlemen, 26.74 and 26.31. 26 Rand. I mean, you could say 27 Rand or 26 Rand. Either way, 26 frickin' Rand. I feel really bad for those who have to commute every day to work in the morning and back. It's gonna cost you. I mean, flabbergasted, man. Flabbergasted. I don't know what more to say on that. But anyway, the really juicy story for today, ladies and gentlemen, is, I don't know if anybody has seen what has happened to Action SA's CEO. Well, I don't know if he's a CEO, but I know that he's like, he's top brass in the Action Society situation. Sorry, civil society. Don't know why I can't talk. So Ian Cameron, ladies and gentlemen, has been on my show before. You guys know him. Part of Action Society. We've been speaking about a lot of things. Crime stats. Spoke about the DNA backlog. We've spoken about a lot of things on the show. He's going to join me again tomorrow. I can't believe what happened to him today. And I'm not going to say too much more. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a video that has been basically gone viral on social media. I'm not going to give it any context yet. I just want to show it to you without giving you any goggles to look through or anything like that. Then we're going to talk about it. All right? How about that? So let's do that, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Very short clip. Here we come.
Did not join human rights battles yesterday. That's why I was sent to prison. That's why I was sent to Robben Island. That's why I lived in the cold water. That's why I ate bad food, because I was fighting for human rights. That's why today we have human rights. Don't teach me about human rights. Don't tell me and tell about the safety of my people. I fought for it. I nearly died for it. I was arrested for it. I was exiled for it. Don't provoke me. Don't talk things that you have studied and you have heard, you have been told about. I've lived this life. I've lived the life of being African. I've lived the life when my mother was called a kitchen girl, when my father was called a garden boy. I've lived that life. And I'm not going to take any nonsense of somebody who regards me as a garden boy today, because you regard me as a garden boy. You come here, shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I sat here, I listened to you. I sat here, I listened to you talking nonsense. Listen, it's your time to listen. Sit down and listen, young man. Or get out! Or get out! Get out!
Yeah, so I am going to give context to what is going on, ladies and gentlemen. So, Action Society was in Cape Town, specifically Guguletu and another township. And they were representing residents there, specifically women who are victims to GBV in South Africa. They were having a type of meeting conference with SAPS to discuss the criminal activities that are happening there, as well as the GBV stuff that is happening there. And Action Society was asked to represent some of these victims. Ian Cameron gave a speech and had to explain to people the criminal activities that are going on in those areas. Now, I am. This is why I'm going to have Ian on the show tomorrow, is to give his side of the story. I don't think that he needs to give his side of the story, but I want to hear it from him, what exactly happened, because obviously ENCA doesn't show. I mean, I haven't really had the time to check myself on ENCA if there is any other clip. But this is the clip that's going around. And it almost tries to make like Bheki Mahlobo was giving a speech and Ian was being rude. But if you look at Ian, he's not shouting necessarily. He's saying, he's not going to sit down. He's not going to shut up. Because Ian, along with Action Society, have been very vocal about their dislike for Bheki Mahlobo. Not personal, just that he's not a very good police minister. And I don't think anybody can argue with that fact. Under Bheki Mahlobo's watch, the DNA backlog has, it's still around. I don't know if it's any better. Crime has been on the rise. GBV has been on the rise. Nothing good has happened under Bheki Mahlobo's guidance as police minister. And Action Society have often spoken out about this. So they're not, I wouldn't say they hate Bheki Mahlobo, but I would say that they just want Bheki Mahlobo to do a better job. They do say that Bheki Mahlobo should be fired, and I agree with that. And there should be someone who is more competent to be in the police minister position. All in all, the ANC should completely, futsek, but we are here after all, and we have to make do with what we have. Action Society does a lot of great work with civilians and with protecting people who are victims of GBV, helping them out, letting them get justice. Ian spends a lot of time in law, in court, fighting and representing some of these victims, making sure that they see justice. Ian is not a bad person, but I'm worried that ENCA may try and paint him out to be one, because of course, you may have heard Bheki Mahlobo said no to the white man, Well, he didn't say that. He said something, sit down white man, or something like that. And obviously started to say, you view me as a garden boy. No, Ian didn't even say anything like that in his speech. Nothing like that, as a matter of fact. But of course, Bheki Mahlobo trying to play the race card, trying to turn it around. It's a white man telling Bheki Mahlobo that he's not doing a good job. So garden boy complex, whatever you want to call it. No, the fact of the matter is, Ian just sees you, Bheki Mahlobo, for what you really are, which is an incompetent police minister. You are a disgrace for any and all South Africans. You're a disgrace for a lot of South African victims to GBV, to crime, to murder, farm attacks, you name it. Anything, any crime that happens in South Africa, whether it be a petty theft or it be, God forbid, sexual assault, you are to blame, Bheki. You are to blame, Bheki Cele, because you have done nothing. You and the ANC are all to blame. You all have blood on your hands, whether you like it or not, whether you want to see it or not. And if you want to play the race card, be my guest, but the facts speak for themselves. And I'm going to let Ian Cameron himself, there have been some clips released of Ian after he was escorted out. He was pulled, his jacket was broken, or ripped, and this is after that, once the police have basically kicked him off the premise, not just in the parking lot, but completely off the premise. And yeah, so here we are. Just when I click on this and make it bigger, and you'll see for yourself. This, we're gonna play a few clips. They're not very long, but I thought it's important to get what Ian said afterwards. And of course, I have linked Action Society in the link in the description below. So please go follow them. You can get even more detail of what happened today. But like I said, Ian will be on my show tomorrow morning. We're going to do a pre-recorded interview. So the interview will be released probably later on in the day tomorrow. So do keep an eye out for that. But let's have a look and listen to what Ian said afterwards.
Is making this a political issue. He talks about partnerships, not the provincial government, not the other NGOs that work in the area, or even the city was invited to this. We are a different NGO working in the region with gender-based violence. We represent many victims in this area. Just this morning we were in court again. Then he comes and he starts speaking about freedom fighting, and he speaks about political issues, while 153 women will be raped in South Africa today. While 67 people will be murdered in South Africa today. While in this area alone, along with Kailicha, more than 50 people have been shot in mass shootings in less than 7 months. And he wants to come and talk politics. I don't see him patrolling with the community. I don't see Tele patrolling with all the brave ladies from the neighborhood watches here. And then he shouts at me. He tells me to shut up because I said to him, do not speak down to me. I don't mind speaking straight to someone, but look me in the eye and then we speak honestly. We speak like gentlemen, and that we don't have to be nice, but we speak directly. But then he shouts to me to sit down and shut up. I said, no, you shut up. I will not stand back and I will not sit down. You are a public servant. A minister is an elected official. It is not someone that can treat community members like rubbish.
And I couldn't agree more. Finally, someone has said it, man. Like, I've been saying this for such a long time. I don't know when in South Africa, I just don't know when South Africans have lost this or gained this mentality that politicians are like kings and queens, that politicians are like our boss, or somehow the elders, or a parent figure, where they demand respect. No, respect is earned, especially if it's a politician. A politician is not my boss. A politician is not my mother, it's not my father, it's not my God. A politician serves me. I pay their salaries when I pay tax, whether it be VAT, whether it be tax on income tax, whatever tax we freaking pay, that pays for their salary. So they work for us, not the other way around. And I do not know where South Africans got this idea that they cannot stand up to politicians. So I commend and I thank and I honor Ian for actually standing up, literally standing up, when he was told to shut down and when he was told to shut up and sit down. He stood up and he said, no. Because he has every right to be there. And the fact that the police removed him the way they did, which I think he explains in the next video. So let me, is it this one? I don't know. Let me just have a listen. No, it's not this one. But I will play this one in a moment. But the way that the SAPs removed him, it's not like Ian was drunk. I mean, you saw the clip. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't shouting profanity at Bheki. I'm pretty sure he wanted to. He wasn't like shouting back at Tele like, you shut up, you piece of nothing. He was just like, no, I'm not going to sit down. I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to sit down. Because, like he said, you must speak like man to man, not speak down to me. He's basically accusing Ian of being racist in a way, because like Bheki was saying, I'm not the garden boy, and Ian, I'm pretty sure Ian did not even allude to that. Ian's just telling him how terrible Bheki is at his job, which we all know, of course. But anyway, let me play the last part of this. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, you can go in the link in the description. Action Society, the full part, or all the parts are on their timeline. You can check out the full video.
He's standing there laughing, making jokes. Well, tonight, someone will be shot dead in this community. So I'm tired of hearing political excuses and political stories while ordinary South Africans are being killed throughout the country. Remember that. Today, 67 people will be murdered in South Africa. Tomorrow, another 67. I get pulled out of here. My jacket is torn by a public order police member who says to me, "You will shut up, white man, and leave." I didn't come here this morning as a white man. I came here this morning as a concerned citizen representing many women that have been raped and murdered here. I think of Nosepiwe James. I think of someone like Sipukazi Boy. Sipukazi was dismembered, her arms and her legs cut off. There was no 72-hour intervention plan by Tsele then. There was no Imbizo. She was burnt in a trolley bin. And the same with Nosepiwe James. She was stabbed, no task team appointed. It took public organizations along with station members that are ill-resourced to go and make that arrest. So this is not a political issue, it's a crime issue. And he needs to stop walking around in the Western Cape making everything about politics. I don't care about the DA, I don't care about the ANC. People will be murdered here tonight, tomorrow, and the day after.
And the day after. I mean, I gotta admit, getting a little bit emotional listening to the passion that Ian is speaking with. These are all cases that he has spoken about on my show, and you hear the horrible way that these people have been killed, and just how crazy the crime is in these areas. And you gotta wonder, you got Bheki just making an appearance and saying, something's going to be done, and then he walks away, and like Ian said, making it political, in a way proving and showing how incompetent SAPS and Bheki is, or SAPS run, or rather, let me backtrack, I'm getting mixed up in my own words. Showing how incompetent SAPs are when they're run by Bheki. He is not a leader of any kind. He is disgraceful. I saw someone comment that in the comment section. Absolutely, and a minister should never speak that way to a civilian, especially someone who's trying to actually help. Someone who's trying to say, hey, do better. Someone who has walked with these civilians that have gone through these horrible things and is trying to help them, get justice. Literally, Ian and his team, they are the ones that put together the dockets. They're the ones that gather the evidence. They're the ones that then take it to police, who then gather more evidence before an arrest is made, who then go to trial, make sure that nothing happens to the DNA evidence, make sure that nothing happens, or that the entirety of the evidence is tampered with. They make sure that everything is handled as professional as possible, and then they go to trial, and they are there for the trial, and they help get justice. They are doing what the SEPs should be doing. They are doing what law enforcement should be doing from the very beginning. And of course, Bheki does not like that because, well, Ian's white. That's pretty much it, right? No other reason. I would love to see what would have happened if Ian was black. Would Bheki still have lost his cool the way he did? And if not, how Bheki would have reacted? Would he have been a bit more calm? Or would he still tried politicking? Probably still tried politicking. At the end of the day, Bheki doesn't want to take responsibility for anything that is going on in South Africa. And this incident has definitely shown that. As terrible as this is, maybe this is what needed to happen so that people can see the true colors of Bheki. What we've seen is an unhinged police minister who is clearly losing his grasp on control. The image that he's trying to uphold is falling apart, and people can see through his BS. It is disgraceful, disgusting, and shouldn't be accepted. I hear that Ian might press charges. I think he should. I think a lot of people would be in his corner if he did, because it's unacceptable what has happened. He did nothing wrong. Ian did nothing wrong whatsoever. He was there representing victims, and he got kicked out for speaking the truth, basically. So, yeah. Let me know your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments, in the live comments. That's pretty much all I wanted to share. Like I said, I'll have Ian with me tomorrow on the show. It won't be live. We're going to do a pre-recording interview for 10 minutes. I'll edit it and then put it out there. So keep an eye on the channel. Basically, it will be up, and we'll get Ian's side of the story, and his thoughts, how he's doing, and if he will press charges. I also want to know what happened before that clip, because I'm sure that wasn't the beginning of Tele's speech. I want to know more about what Ian was talking about, and yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting conversation with Ian for 10 minutes. So yes, very much looking forward to that tomorrow. Let me see. Tele is very ignorant. Arrogant. Well, either way, true. They're riding the gravy train. It's enough now, pretty much. Yes. So please say they revealed himself for what he really is. Absolutely. Helen in the house. Hello, folks. Hello, Helen. True colors. Yep. Wants to draw a massive salary. Spot on, Joe. We did need to see that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know who thought that Sele was a good guy. I mean, Lord help you if you thought Sele was a good guy. It's just like these people who think that Cyril is not the ANC. I always laugh so much when I see those comments like, yeah, but Cyril's fixing the ANC. He's not the ANC. And I'm like, no. He's the spokesperson of the ANC. He's not trying to fix shit. He's actually instigating most of it. But anyway, those people are lost, and maybe those that thought Bheki was good can now see that he's actually not. But yeah, I was a bit worried about Ian. I did reach out to Ian. Obviously, he says he's doing fine. Bit of a long day for him, and I'm sure it's going to be a very long day tomorrow. Amy says, describe South Africa in one word. Maybe some of you in the live chats can also give your comment on that. So describe South Africa in one word. Drop your word in the live comments. Describe South Africa in one word. Lost. Very lost. And I think that translates to in many different ways. I think the people are lost, whether or not you can see the writing on the wall or not. I I think people are lost because those of us that can see the writing on the wall and speak truth don't do enough to rattle some cages. Those South Africans that don't see the writing on the wall, well, they're lost because of that. They have blinders on. The politicians are lost because they don't live in the real South Africa. They have no idea what it's like in communities. They have no grasp on reality of what the real South Africa is. The rich in South Africa are also lost because, again, same reason as the politicians. And the poor are also lost because most of them keep voting for a government that doesn't care about them. And those that don't vote are lost because they don't know who to vote for to help them, and they don't know what to do to get themselves out of poverty. When the answer is actually quite simple, but it's unfortunately, even though the answer is quite simple, the implementation of it is a lot more complicated. So lost. I would definitely go with lost. Helen saying Aish. It's also a good one. Amy saying roller coaster. Paula saying hopeless. Hopeless, a bit. Well, I mean, that's your take on it. So obviously, that's cool. I wouldn't be so bleak. Amy saying depression. That's even more bleak. Damn. I agree with you, Joe. Lost is a good way to describe South Africa. Yeah. I think, again, even if you speak to middle class people, they're also lost because they either gobble what the corporate media says without doing more research for themselves. So they are misguided. And again, those that aren't misguided, those that do see the truth, are too coward to really do much more than that, to fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean violent. I mean just a simple example, right? Is being able to voice your opinion about the government, being able to voice your opinion about a specific policy, being able to voice your opinion about the way things are going. Some people who work at big corporate companies will avoid politics, even though they listen to politics and they watch politicians and they know a lot about politics privately. They will never voice it on social media because they're scared that they may lose their job, be canceled, stuff like that. So there's this notion of cancel culture and just tyranny, really, where people cannot voice their actual opinions, and then they become lost because, well, when you put a muzzle on someone and they can't talk, well, someone said it very nicely on a podcast I listened to this past week. In a democracy, if you are silent, it becomes tyranny. And I think that is very, very true. And we become lost because we're no longer able to voice our opinions. And without voicing our opinions, we can't change minds. If we can't change minds, we are sheep and we are lost. So, yes. South Africa long drop. South Africans, tough, resilient survivors. Absolutely. I do agree with that. Y'all are very, very tough, resilient, and survivors. I mean, yes, you guys are. Corrupt. I think that's Africa. If you're to give a word for Africa, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Hurtful. Some of them, not all of them. Yeah, they do vote for grants, but even that's not 100% the reason now. A lot of poor are just not voting anymore. So, pretty much, yeah. Disillusioned. Some of them, definitely. Absolutely. Maybe a lot of people, you could even say, are captured in a way, you know. It's a very interesting situation in South Africa, I think. You know, I think it's really interesting to me because like a year and a half ago, if I criticized the ANC, it was frowned upon. But now I'm seeing a lot of people that would have criticized me for criticizing the ANC are criticizing the ANC themselves now. And I'm like, well, welcome to the party. I've been here for like 2 years. Where have you been? But so it's becoming more, it's slowly becoming more acceptable to criticize the ANC. But again, there's like limitations. So like you can criticize the ANC if you say they're corrupt because everybody knows they're corrupt, right? You can criticize the ANC about load shedding because they've been failing with that. But if you dare criticize BEE, ooh, that's where the line's drawn. That's where you're no. You can't do that one. Can't do that one. Even though some people, depending on who you are, can criticize BEE in the way of saying, well, it's not benefiting the poor black people. That's slightly accepted. But if you were to say that BEE needs to completely change and be scrapped, ooh, no, you're not allowed to say that. Not allowed to bring that up, apparently. So even though we might be a little bit more allowed to criticize the ANC, it's almost like whatever the mainstream media or corporate media is saying about the ANC is what we can say. If corporate media is not saying it, then we can't say it. That's pretty much how it goes. So yeah. 14 years of load shedding. Yeah, I think it was since 2007, wasn't it? Was it 2007? No. Yeah, 2007. Holy crap. It has been 14 years. 14 freaking years. This I do agree with as well. I love South Africa. And it's weird because like a lot of South Africans are like, why are you here? South Africa is a cock place. I'm like, no, the people of South Africa are great. The country itself is extremely beautiful. Like really, guys, I've been to a few places on this planet. South Africa is definitely top, Western Cape specifically, but South Africa in general. I mean, beautiful. So that I do agree with. It's just the government messing this place up. The government's really bad, like really, really bad. Amy believes it's all planned. Do I need to put on my tinfoil hat for this? Where's my tinfoil hat? It used to be in the background and now it's gone. Oh shit. Someone threw away my tinfoil hat. Okay, I'll have to make a new one. Okay. Yeah. Was it all planned? I think to some extent yes, but I guess maybe I should ask like what exactly is like all of it? Like every single thing that's happened right now is planned. That's a bit. I find that very hard to believe. If every single thing was planned, like that's like Nostradamus kind of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, 2007, definitely before the World Cup. Yep, definitely. Helen says those people are involved. Well, maybe. That's highly possible. Like, look, I'll be honest, at this stage, anything's possible. Like, let me just say that. Anything is freaking possible at this stage, you know. All I know is 2024 is going to be lit, ladies and gentlemen. I've been saying this a few times on this channel. 2024 is going to be lit. It is the American elections. It is the South African elections. Oh my word, guys. Probably going to be the best time to be streaming. Like, so much content. I cannot wait to just see the world. I mean, not that I'm going to be happy about it, because obviously it's going to affect our wallets, but it's still going to be pretty crazy to see the world. The world's just going to go crazy. I just know it. I can see it. I can imagine it right now. I can make tinfoil hats together. Okay. We can make a YouTube video on how to make tinfoil hats. First, you need tinfoil. Make sure you get from your local grocery store. You'll also need scissors, tape, and press stick. I don't know if you really need press stick. And a hot glue gun. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that. This is not true, Gert. I mean, you are right, but it does not make up the majority. Well, wait, hold on. Let me read this properly. Remember those that don't vote helps. Oh, remember those that don't vote help. Okay. Contrary government, provisional or community employees, captured contractors make up majority. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that is true. But what you also need to take into account, Gert, is that the entire pool of that is shrinking. So that is why the ANC probably will not get over 50%. Still a slight chance they will, but the entire pool, even, like, you're right, it is, their voter base is comprised of those people, but that entire pool is shrinking. And we do need dissenting voters. We need people to just vote. Because here's the other part that people forget, right? There are, I don't know how many registered voters. Let's just, for argument's sake, I know it's like 19 million or 20 million. Somewhere there. I can't remember. But let's just go with 20 million for the sake of argument, okay? 20 million registered voters, okay? 20 million South Africans that can vote right now. And I think less than 50% of them actually go vote. So if we just make those people that aren't voting go vote, and even if those people vote for any other party except for the for the ANC and EFF, like they don't vote, like vote for anyone else except for those two parties. Why can't I talk today? Except for those two parties, it would change everything. It would change everything. We don't actually need new voters. We need the old voters to go back to voting. There's like so much statistics here that plays a role. Because on the one hand, yes, maybe we do need new voters, new skin in the game, new people, you know. But the fact of the matter is, South Africans are hurt and wounded and frustrated with the political system in South Africa. And maybe not the system, but politics in South Africa. They're frustrated with politicians, with the government, and they just don't trust it. And I don't blame them for that. It is very difficult to convince a South African to go vote. And that may be the first problem. Let's see. Yeah, well, this is my point here. I wouldn't even know who to vote for. I think in time I would probably vote ACDP. They're gaining a lot of support, I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of people who have turned to ACDP. I am considering, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this, not that they are bad, not that they are horrible in any way. I never thought I would ever vote for them, is Freedom Front Plus. I can't believe I'm saying that. I have nothing against them, you know. I don't. I really don't. But someone said something to me during the municipal elections, and it kind of simmered in my brain. And as months went by, I started to notice what they were saying is actually true. And it's the fact that Freedom Front Plus are one of the few parties that don't flip-flop. Like, they say who they are and they stick with it. They say what they want to do and they stick with it, you know, or they try and stick with it as much as possible. And that's something that not a lot of parties do. Look at the DA, they flip-flop. EFF, flip-flop, right? Actually very disappointed in the DA, to be honest. Yes, I know they run the Western Cape the best, blah, blah, blah. But still, I don't know. Something not sitting well with me with the DA at the moment. So I'm leaning towards Freedom Front Plus, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not saying that everybody should vote for Freedom Front Plus. I'm just saying my experience with them has been eye-opening. Because I did meet the leader of, well, not the leader, I think he's the deputy of Freedom Front Plus. And I was just blown away with what he said. I'm like, wow. Flip. I'm impressed. So yeah. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. And I'm definitely going to go vote. I think South Africans should just go vote. Just vote for the and here's the other thing that South Africans, and I'm sure, you know, when we get into this discussion later on 818 days of tyranny, we're going to probably get into the voting discussion. So yeah, let's one of my guests is kind of in the studio. I don't know if he can hear me, but I'm going to tell him that I'm going to kick him out and he must call back in. Because I wasn't seeing anything. So basically, what I was trying to say very quickly before we go on break is South Africans must get out of this habit of saying or believing that they must find a party that completely aligns with them. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of South Africans that tell me like, yeah, but I can't find a party that I agree with completely. You're never going to find that, dude. You are never, ever going to find... Even in America, we have the Democrats and Republicans, right? There's even people who vote Republican, who are Republican, don't agree with everything that future president wants to do, okay? There's always one or two policies that we just don't agree with, okay? You just got to let that go. You got to look at the overall picture. You got to look at maybe there's 10 policies, right? And if you agree with 8 of them, that's a pretty good bet, right? Unless, of course, one of the policies is we want to implement EWC. Well, then that pretty much eliminates them, right? You don't want that, okay? So that's not the party for you. But if there's 20 policies under Action SA, and one of them is we want to make the drinking age 21, are you really not going to vote for them because of that? Like, seriously, it's probably not going to happen. So, just vote for them, all right? If you agree with 8 of them and the one is, a little thing, just freaking vote for them. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Just try and weigh out your options. Try and yeah, just weigh out your options. Try and find the party that you agree with 80-90% of the time, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense, but that's what I was. Okay, now he's in. We're just waiting for one more guest, but I am going to take a bit of a break, ladies and gentlemen, to get set up. We will continue. Actually, I'm sure we're going to continue this voting conversation later on in the night with my guests, Rob Hutchinson and Koketso Resane. Unfortunately, Bheki could not join us tonight. It's very unfortunate, but we'll still have a very riveting conversation with these two gentlemen. I'm very excited. We're going to be talking about 818 days of tyranny. I'll explain more about that when we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So please don't go anywhere. Quick break, and we'll be back.
Jokes on you, 'cause that's
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's break time. Don't go anywhere, I want to share some announcements. Firstly, as you saw, I have a one-man show stand-up comedy special. Please book your tickets as soon as possible. There is limited seating. Tickets also include a meal. Oh, and the show is directed by the legend Barry Hilton. Avoid disappointment and book your tickets now. Just follow the link in the description, ladies and gentlemen, where you will find all the information. And secondly, please consider becoming a member to this channel. It goes a long way to supporting me and the channel. And for as little as $60, you can become a member to this channel and get exclusive perks. Just check out the join button below for all the details. And if you don't want to become a member, that's absolutely fine. Don't forget that you can also donate by giving a super chat, or sasa chats as we call them on this channel, or you can use super thanks to also donate to this channel. All donations are greatly appreciated. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are just tuning in, don't go anywhere. This is just a short break. The show will be starting again shortly, so enjoy the rest of the show. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet already. Thanks.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. I have no regrets, yeah, I'll tie up my chest. I'll never forget what it's.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Joe Media Show. Why is my side blurry? I don't know why. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Koketso Resane, and Rob Hutchinson will be joining me. Apparently, he is on Conscious Caracal at the moment, and I just tuned in quickly to see where they're at, and Conscious is asking him his last question. So they will join. I'm sure Rob will join once he is done. So Koketso and I will start off the conversation. Firstly, Koketso, how are you doing?
Yeah, I think I'm alive. Yeah, I'm alive. All things considered, it's interesting times we in, given the kind of backlash we get daily on social media. But hey,
No, absolutely, man. I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. It's basically, for those of you who are wondering what the conversation is about, I'll probably have to say this again once Rob comes on, but it's fine. Basically, it's when the masks and the social distancing and the cap on capacity was lifted. Basically, the last remaining lockdown regulations was lifted. That was 818 days that we endured those regulations. 818 days. That's a lot of days. And and I thought to myself, I would love to have a panel discussion about, where South Africa is at, what parts of those 818 days stood out, or that really left a mark on you, that affected you in any way, shape, or form. And we'll later on discuss what can we do, later on now to try and turn things around in South Africa. So I think where we can start now is basically, 818 days, Koketso. Is there anything from those 818 days that really stand out for you? What's like a very, like something that's seared in your memory?
yeah, I think getting a Section 189 notice from a previous employer, that kind of stood out.
Wow.
This was during 2020, so yeah, roughly 3-4 months into lockdown. And yeah, I mean, you hear the stories, right? But when it's you, it kind of hits different. And again, fortunately for me, I was able to, at the very least, go do something else, and yeah, go effectively go work somewhere else. But not a lot of people were that lucky. Some people, an entire industry was decimated. So again, it doesn't matter how good you were at your job, but if your job is effectively deemed unimportant by the
Mm.
state, then there is no quick recovery for you. So yeah, for me that was the big one. And then one more recently, 600 plus days later after that is, yeah, just watching my girlfriend's company liquidate as well.
Oh no.
You know, again, it's one of those where picture growing up as a kid, you're kind of always told that, hey, what you want is a good job in life, something that sets you up nicely. I can't speak for other races, of course, but with a lot of black people, there's really the whole thing of, right, go either be a doctor, a lawyer, or go be a pilot, and the broader discussion there is those are kind of safe industries. And yeah, aviation wasn't really a safe industry, was it? So yeah, and
No.
that was more recent as well. So yeah, for me, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's not so much the cooked chicken or the illegality of buying cooked chicken that I'll remember. It's not the inability to go outside. The two things I'll remember is just those two experiences I've just mentioned, of course, and how people absolutely lost their minds over prescribed medication that was mandated by law. Yeah, that I'll never forget.
I think for me as well, the things that I won't forget is the political climate, just how at the beginning of everything, being told, this is misinformation or that is misinformation. And ladies and gentlemen, hot off of conscious caracal, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Hutchinson from Dear SA, able to join now. Rob, how are you?
Very well in yourself.
I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry, Rob. You didn't miss much. We were just actually tackling the first question because, as I mentioned earlier, this stream is about basically after the lifting of the regulations, the final regulations, the last of the regulations. It was mentioned that it had been 818 days of enduring these regulations, these lockdown in South Africa. And I thought, let's have a discussion about, what, if anything at all, really stands out in your mind, has seared in your mind that you will never forget from those 818 days, and some other questions which we'll get into. But let's start there with you, Rob, because Koketso just gave his answer, which was basically companies being told that they weren't important, or what was it? Essential,
Yeah.
and his girlfriend's company also having to basically shut down. But for you, Rob, what was over these 818 days? And I imagine you've got a few, but try and pick maybe the top two. What stands out to you? What's seared in your mind? If someone says South African lockdown, what, boom, pops to your mind?
No, you're right. It's hard to single out one ridiculous regulation that government did put through because they were all quite ridiculous. I think the what stood out to me most was nothing is based on fact. There was no data to support any of their decisions, and to me that was just a recipe for disaster. The whole level one, level two, level three thing was absolute rubbish. It was absolute rubbish because nobody could predict what level we were going to next, and that just was a clear indication that obviously there's no methodology behind this. They're just thumb sucking. They're just doing what they want, and for me that was a definite sign that we're heading towards an authoritarian approach here, where decisions are made on a whim by an illegitimately appointed body that is not listening to the public. It is not listening to any advice, and it is simply not following any valid science in any way whatsoever. And I think that to me spelt a recipe for disaster, which resulted in ridiculous regulations like banning open-toed shoes and warm chicken dinners and whatever else the minister felt that he didn't want to see people's toenails. I think that was for open-toed shoes there. Who knows? Maybe he was allergic to Woolies chicken, or Woolies annoyed him somewhere, or something else like that. But it was that ridiculous. I mean, if he had come out and said you're not allowed to wear black rimmed glasses anymore, I think most of the public would have gone, yes, okay, tighten my mask, let's put it on, and let's go without question. And once you stop questioning ridiculous things like that, then we headed for trouble. So, sure, I've said a lot there, but
No, no, no.
it's hard to pin down.
Like this is it though, because I think 818 days is a lot to go through. And I was also about to say, pretty much the same thing you were going to say. Is like the beginning of it, especially, was a tough time. I felt politically. There was so much happening during that time with U.S. elections, and then there was COVID had started, and the lockdowns, and fear, and then the whole attack on I'll rather call it censorship era, if I can put it that way, of lockdown. But what stands out to me is the amount of businesses that were lost. If I think South African lockdown, I think of that, and someone else mentioned it earlier, Richard, saying cigarettes. The cigarette banning, I think, is also something that a lot of South Africans will think about when they hear South African lockdown. The ridiculousness, and it's funny. I asked this question for a specific reason, and it's to prove a point. The three of us, when we are told South African lockdown, you don't quickly go to, it was to save lives. As a matter of fact, we went the complete opposite. We thought of everything that destroyed lives. Loss of jobs, loss of business, ridiculous regulations that didn't make sense. And that, I think, is in itself a very telling story of the 818 days. I think that what people need to understand is that, as tough as this might be to hear, is that, and I'm going to give you guys the floor to answer this. We'll start with Koketso. Do you believe that the 818 days of lockdown was pointless?
Well, yes. I say this because, and I'll admit that, towards the beginning, when we were told that, listen, let's just all stay home for 21 days, I found it fairly rational to say, all right, we've got a lot coming our way. There's already been an infection. Let the government and the health profession, let them bunker down and do what they need to. And we'll be back in a month's time. It is what it is. Fine, you know. And then I still remember vividly the week before the end of that 21st day, the rumors coming around now that we actually not gonna, it's not gonna come to an end after 21 days. And that's around about the time when you were hearing stories out of Italy, stories out of Turkey, et cetera, et cetera. When all of this was happening, I just remember thinking, so Velo Velo, there's no end to this, really. There's no plan. What was given to us in the beginning, clearly that's not worked. And instead of being told what will work, we're just being told, no, no, let's just keep things as it is. So all things considered, talk about waves if you believe in waves or not, right? What has lockdown actually achieved? Looking back, right, the benefit of hindsight is there. But looking back, what has actually been achieved? Did infections come to a halt because of lockdown? No, they didn't. Did the spread of the virus actually get significantly reduced? No, it didn't. Did less people end up in a mortuary? No, they didn't either. Instead, what's happened is we've had 800 days of this. The economy has significantly shrunk. Growth prospects have significantly shrunk. Unemployment is on the rise. And then to top it off, you've got Charlotte Maxeke Hospital that I think even now is still not functional. So even at a time when, right, everyone is at home, now's the time, that was the perfect opportunity to actually catch up on some infrastructure projects. Even when things went bad on an infrastructure level, nothing was actually repaired, nothing was caught up. The roads that need to be patched up with potholes and things, nothing was done to actually take advantage of the situation. So even if you step back from the health conversation and you start thinking, right, perhaps during that time things were done, there's nothing to show for it. Instead, you've got government which has taken out loans that I'll still have to pay for. I'm 31 right now. I'll still be here in 20 years. So yeah, I'm gonna have to pay for those through my taxes. While those in the executive right now, most likely, most of them will be 6 feet under, and I'll still have to deal with it. So nothing's been achieved. In fact, we've maybe taken half a step forward, but we've easily taken 10 steps back.
Absolutely. I think I would tend to agree with you with that, Koketsa, and specifically with 818 days for nothing except for destroying the middle class in South Africa, making the poorer poorer, and probably the richer richer. I'm not sure about that. Definitely the politicians got richer. But Rob, what do you think? 818 days, was it completely for nothing?
Short answer, that was completely for nothing. No, really. I think it was an absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time. I echo Koketsu's thoughts there that in the beginning, the 21 days that were suggested by government I think we all agreed that, yes, we know nothing about what's happening. We know the data on this virus is scarce. There hasn't been enough time. Nobody really knew what could happen. So I think majority of people agreed to the 21-day lockdown. And then I think halfway through that, we sort of realized, no, something's not right here. Why are there no preventative measures? Why can't we take something or to prevent this disease? What's happened to the common cold? What is the difference between the common cold or flu and this? Why is the treatment varied? What are we waiting for? And there was a sincere lack of information coming from government, and from a sincere confusion and contradiction of information that came from other sources. And then, of course, conspiracy theories start flying around, and then information was withheld. The media jumps in on board, and it's just been a total. I'd say, I don't want to use too harsh words, but if I could say, it was a shit show. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it didn't have to be. That, to me, that was the craziest thing, is it didn't have to be.
I,
The Disaster Management Act was introduced, and a state of disaster was declared after one case. That in itself should have raised alarm bells absolutely everywhere.
yeah.
Why didn't we rather go through it and see how this played out in our environment, rather than following a first world, highly equipped, medically capable country? Why didn't we focus on our hospitals, equipping them, boosting them, when we knew for years already that the whole healthcare system in South Africa and public health system is failing and collapsing? And immediately, I think after about 10 days into the 21-day lockdown, when you were sitting around, had nothing else to do but go through social media, you started asking yourself those questions. Well, the wise people did anyway. Those critical thinkers, yay to them, started asking those questions.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make any sense. And 800 and however many days later, no, what an absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time. And we could have ended this 800 days ago. We could have. So
Yeah.
after that 21 days lockdown, we should have said, hang on a second, we're going to kill ourselves here. We're a fragile economy. Let's keep it open. Let's keep going. Let's take precautions like sanitization and so on. But we should never have locked down. I think it was a rash decision, probably through international pressure placed on our government by the WHO.
Yeah, I think Gareth Cliff, I mean, he said it himself, and he got backlash hectically for it, saying that the economy is going to, or that millions of people are going to suffer. And I mean, I would imagine that he felt like saying "I told you so," but at the same time, it's not something to be proud of necessarily, because a lot of people have lost businesses, have died, and it's a tough situation to be in. And a lot of people, such as like Gareth Cliff, such as DRSA and guys like Koketso and Bheki and a lot of other people said the same thing, and we were right. And this kind of brings me on to the next question that I wanted to ask, which we get into the real crux of the conversation now, is where is South Africa now? 818 days, we've established all for nothing. Okay, where are we now? I read recently that, and again, corporate media trying to make it out like it's a good thing, South Africa is back where it was pre-lockdown. So I don't know if you guys remember, but before lockdown, I think it was like the week of the lockdown or the week before, Moodley's had just downgraded us below junk status, which I don't know what you call that. Okay, shit of junk. I don't know. And and that's where we were before lockdown. Okay, and now apparently we're back to that. So, Koketso, maybe you could shed some light. Like, what does that actually mean? Should we be happy about that?
No, because when 1.2 million people lose their job, right, and then a year later, 400,000 more people are now employed, it's still nothing to celebrate. You're still sitting at a deficit, and the media, well, yeah, let me not call them out here, but you've got people who love to bring out percentages, etc. They're very quick to over exaggerate good news in any form or fashion. This includes the unemployment rate being reduced by something like 2% a couple of weeks ago, according to Stats SA. But yeah, they're very quick to over exaggerate. We are not back where we were. We're paying more for petrol. I just burnt a significant chunk of my disposable income about 2 hours ago, just to put in some petrol in my car. Inflation is through the roof. Food prices are through the roof. The only thing that's somewhat stable has been the exchange rate, I guess. Everything else across the board, the cost of doing business is more. Everyone's been hit with price increases. Whether you're one of the rare few that still subscribe to DSTV Premium, all the way to whether you're a business owner who's still buying raw material, even something as basic as flour. Everything has gone up. So to then say we are back to where we were, I think it's a slap in the face, especially to those who are really trying their hardest to eke out a living. I know people who've got businesses where they've gone from 30 odd staff to around 15 right now. That's 15 people who are unemployed, who, no matter what statistic you throw at them, that's still someone who's lost their job and potentially hasn't been able to bounce back. If you look at even the financial sector, the sheer number of people who've cashed out their pension funds, for example. Go ask the banks how much in assets they're still holding. Go talk to the asset managers, etc. They'll tell you that no, we are not back where we were. We might be back to the same level of traffic, maybe, but in terms of GDP and actual Gini coefficient, those sort of numbers, we're not back where we were. And it's just media really trying to over exaggerate the little good news that I suppose is available somehow.
No, no, that's a very fair point. I didn't believe it for a second, because everything you just said is what came to my mind. Inflation, the petrol now going tomorrow over 26 rand a liter. Insanity, to say the least. I know I've got some fellow American viewers watching now. I know they're suffering as well with the petrol increase on their side. But this coupled with all the other stuff that is increasing day by day. And again, when petrol increases, everything else increases. So there's more price hikes and stuff like that. Not to mention load shedding now hitting stage 6. And in some areas of the country, they get 5 hours of no electricity. How you do business, I have no idea. So if 818 days didn't kill you, load shedding probably will kill your business, at least, which is very sad. But Rob, same question to you, man. Do you think there's any... do you think South Africa is where it was before lockdown, or do you think we're worse now?
Well, I suppose in the eyes of the media, where were we before lockdown? What exactly are they referring to? I have no idea. If we're back on that downward spiral that we were on before lockdown, then yes, we are back to where we were, and we're still headed in the same direction, and that's down. We have unbelievable government debt, which was present before lockdown. We have mismanagement that was present before lockdown. We have corruption that was present before lockdown. We have an incompetent government at all levels that was present before lockdown. So, yeah, I think we are back to where we were before lockdown. And that's not a good place. Not a good place to be at all. Economically and such, yeah, well, clearly we are definitely worse off. Unemployment is absolutely through the roof, the highest it's ever been, especially on the youth. The country is in tatters. ESCOM is worse than ever. I don't see a point of recovery at any point for that situation. But to claim that we are back to where we before, yeah, I think they're pretty accurate,
All right.
and not in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to get to some of the comments coming through. Zach, who lives in Florida, ladies and gentlemen, saying that his tank costed him $176 to fill. I can see by the eyebrows raising on my guess, they know how much that is. It's quite expensive in the States to fill up a tank. 16 Rand, by the way, 16 Rand point 30 odd cents is the exchange rate at the moment. So $1 will make you 16.30 odd cents, 16 Rand 30 odd cents. So you can do the math if you need to. But yeah, it's a lot of krona, man, to fill up your tank. Damn.
And to drive an American car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder though, Zach. I imagine that's a. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm totally guessing right now. But is it a truck? No, South Africans would call it bucky. Or do you drive a bucky? You don't have to give me any details other than that, just for interest sake. Because yeah, even to fill up a bucky in South Africa is just, I feel really bad for people who drive buckies and SUVs. It's really bad. Anyway, so to get on with the conversation, gents, this does bring me to the next portion of the conversation, which I think we're going to spend quite a bit of time on, and that is what now. After we've established now 818 days for nothing. The situation in South Africa is very bleak, and I know we're painting a very bleak situation, but is there hope? Can South Africa survive? And if so, how? Koketso, and guys, do feel free to take your time because it's pretty much, the crux of the conversation here. So, Koketso, what do you think? What do you think can be done to save South Africa, if at all South Africa can be saved?
So, yeah, I don't know where I picked this sentiment from, but there is a strong sentiment that sub-Saharan Africa, at least, is still somewhat a frontier of sorts. That means there's a lot of opportunity, and it means that even should the worst come to pass, the opportunity will always remain. You can attribute that to, I suppose, the mineral wealth that the country has, but there's other factors to consider too. The population pyramid is another one. Most of the population is young people. These are people who aren't exactly, thinking about how to calm down and settle down and really just go into your twilight years. They are a long ways away from that. So that's the kind of person who comes up with the new ideas, ideally. So given all of these factors, you've got a growing population of young people, you've got some mineral wealth, there is somewhat, yeah, the country is not a failed state, in that we are able to, at the very least, manufacture our own currency. We are able to host elections, etc. So all these considerations does mean that there is reason to stay, and not only that, but there is also reason for others to come in because it is a frontier. You could come out here and really start from nothing and rise to the top. which a lot of people do, foreign nationals included. So as long as that's still there, that sentiment is still there, I believe that there is still hope. How you lose that hope, however, is when you now start feeling that you have been basically cut off at the knees by something like the state, by something like laws, the current regime, etc. And again, like I mentioned, if you go back to that population pyramid, regimes that do this to their young people, it always ends one way. And you have to wonder if the African National Congress remembers this. I say remember because at some point they were the young people who ultimately worked to overthrow the previous regime. So maybe they need the reminder, but you can literally take one of those globes you get in geography class, spin it, and plot your finger on any country, and yeah, just look back at how conflict started, if there was a conflict, and how it came to an end. And 9 times out of 10, it is because young people eventually said, "We fed up." Wars didn't end because it's parents who decided we are sick of sending our children to go off and die. It's the children who decided that, what, I'm actually sick of being sent out there to go and die. So you start taking a stand, you start defecting, you start giving intelligence to the enemy. You do what you will to eventually go back to your life of having hope, of getting married, of having children, of actually, being that, having that dream career that you've always wanted, etc., etc. And you see this in a lot of the guys who have survived things like wars. When they get to their older ages, they are very eager to tell their stories of, what kept them going when they were out in the trenches 40, 50, 60 odd years ago. So there's still hope, I believe. And yeah, it's just a matter of a waiting game, I guess. The African National Congress is a bit of an Ouroboros. That's a snake that eats itself at the tail. At some point it's unsustainable, and all you have to do is leave them to their own devices, and yeah, they will eat themselves to death. I still remember a WikiLeaks docket from a few years ago that leaked the CIA's official opinion on the African National Congress, and that was that by 2030 they expect the African National Congress to eventually split into two, which could potentially trigger a civil war. And that tells you that, at the very least, the Americans are planning for this sort of thing. And here we are in 2022, I suppose, with 8 years left, and you're sitting with RET versus CR17 and all this nonsense. They're proving the Americans right. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I believe the young people will get fed up. They'll hopefully remove the African National Congress via the ballot box instead of something like mass uprisings, etc. Because, look, again, if you're a homeowner, you don't want your house burning because someone decided we need to make a statement. I'd rather do it the clean way. But yeah, let's see how it goes. It's just a waiting game, I guess.
Absolutely, I gotta agree with a lot of what you said, Koketso. We're gonna get into a more in-depth conversation about the voting because I know that's gonna be something that we're gonna urge people. Well, I wouldn't say urge, but it is gonna be a topic of how do we solve the current situation that we're in. But before we do, Rob, same question. What do you think? Do you think South Africa can survive what is happening to South Africa? The 818 days now done. Our situation is looking bleak. Do you think there is a prosperous future for South Africa? And if so, how could we possibly achieve it?
Yeah, no, I do. I have great hope in the country, and I'll be straight up and admit that one stage I was also thinking of immigrating. The grass definitely looked greener on the other side, but now I'm not so sure. You know, we if you look at global trends and see what's happening around the world in other highly developed countries, it doesn't look too good there either. Really, it doesn't. There's definitely an authoritarian takeover of governments. Governments are becoming more oppressive of their people. Freedoms are being taken away, and so on. However, it doesn't seem to be happening so much in South Africa, which is great. And that could be simply because we have a completely inept government. And that to me is almost a blessing in disguise. It really is. Yeah, I'd shudder at the thought of if our government was capable of rolling out these global agenda ideas, but they simply aren't. And that creates wonderful opportunities for the private sector, for the civil society sector to step in where government is failing. I think to solve the country's problems, we definitely have to become less reliant on government. We have to realize that there's no way they can fix it, the problems that face us. The problems have just got worse and worse and worse, and are compounding now with population growth and a weak economy. The government has no clue what they're doing or any clue of how to solve the problems of the past, or problems of the present, or problems that are coming our way. They have no clue. But I guarantee you, individuals and private businesses and civil society organizations do have those answers. They certainly do. And it's up to us to actually stop waiting around, stop expecting government to bail us out, because it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. We need to take matters into our own hands. And I'm not talking of a revolution style here or by force. Sorry, Koketso. But we need to actually take matters into our own hands by enabling ourselves, empowering ourselves, working together as communities, as individuals, as different civil society organizations, and start focusing on solutions rather than the problems. Government will keep highlighting the problems to us. That's their job, is to highlight problems, because it creates votes and it creates opposition parties and so on. I think the time for opposition politics is over. I think civil society is on the uprise here, and I think the solutions will come from the bottom up, and I hope they do.
Yeah, well, Rob, I gotta agree with both of you on this. I think a lot of people, may say that, Joe, you always talk about the problems of South Africa and it's always bleak and criticizing the ANC and stuff, but there's always hope. There is always hope. I only point out the incompetence of the ANC. I wanted to say something else. Incompetence of the ANC, to remind people and to show people, this is a terrible government and we need to change it. And I hope that people get angry enough that they will show their disdain for the ANC at the next national elections. But besides all that, you guys have pointed out something very, very important, is that there is hope because South Africans are resilient. It's a comment that was mentioned earlier in the chats before you guys came on, is that South Africans are resilient. And I 100% agree with that. I think South Africans can take matters into their own hands in a peaceful way when things are failing. We kind of see bits of it now with companies like Discovery doing the potholes. We see municipalities that have been forgotten. The civilians have come together and they've started to fill the potholes. They've started to fix the water. They've started to fix the infrastructure and taking the matter into their own hands. And eventually we're going to see more and more and more of that. That is something that I really do believe is going to happen, and why there is hope and why there is opportunity. But I think one thing that is very important that we should mention is, there is another avenue. And although, I'm in two minds about it, voting, elections, 2024, Koketso mentioned that the CIA believes that ANC will be out of power in 2030. Probably this was before lockdown and COVID, so they didn't know that was going to happen. But
It was back in 2006.
There you go. Okay, so they didn't know. But a lot of things are coming to fruition at the moment. And I think it is an important aspect to talk about, because a lot of people will say, well, if we just get rid of the ANC, then South Africa will be prosperous. Yes and no. There's some truth to that. I think it's going to be a mixture of getting rid of the ANC and communities coming together. But election-wise, because 2024 is going to be a doozy, gents. Let's be honest. There's not only the South African elections, but the American elections as well. Social media is going to be lit, to say the least. My question here is, when it comes to elections, right? I know I'm not telling you guys to tell people who should they vote for. That's not what we're here to do. I'm on the side of saying just go vote. If you are someone who was registered and then stopped voting, just vote. Vote for whoever you think aligns with you 80, 90%. You know, you're not going to find a political party that's going to be 100%, you know, you're going to agree with 100%. There's always going to be one or two little policies you may not agree with. But just vote, because even if the people who are registered to vote and don't vote, if that group of people were to just vote, so no new voters, just those group of people, we could change everything. I know Rob just mentioned coalition parties may not work. Everyone is predicting coalition parties. But let me know, guys. What do you guys think? Do you think there's still hope in the IEC? Well, not specifically the IEC. Rather, let me put it this way. Do you think there's still hope in democracy, in voting, in the voting system? Or do you think that a complete toppling down of government is needed? Koketso, we'll start with you.
So I had a chat with a colleague last week who asked me about, this whole thing of independent candidates being able to run, etc. And I simply told him that I don't think the ruling party is gonna allow it at a national level, right? For one reason, right now there are some good apples inside of the ANC. They're the type that really they do attract a lot of voters. They're the people that give the electorate hope that there is still room for reform and that the ANC can, by God's grace, self-correct somehow. But now, what do you think happens if those individuals are then allowed to go and run as independent candidates? Their own communities who respect them highly are going to say, listen, I like you, I don't like your party. Go out on your own and I'll definitely vote for you. So the real losers, should that ever happen, would be the ANC. And that's why I think they'll fight tooth and nail to avoid something like that happening. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't believe our justice system is captured. So I do envision that that's how it's going to go down. Individuals are going to be allowed to somehow run at a national level, it might just require some significant changes to the electoral code as well in terms of seat allocations in parliament and that sort of thing. But I do envision that that's what will ultimately happen. And the day it does, that's when the ANC loses all of their good people. And once that happens, they lose even their much of their bargaining chips when it comes to creating that coalitions. You'll have coalitions of, maybe the other parties, typically the Democratic Alliance, and maybe you can put in the Green Party in there as well. Perhaps even the Red Party might be in there too. But then you'll have individuals that hold significant sway in terms of how many parliamentary seats and how many blocks can actually be formed inside of parliament. In a mature system, you end up with just a red versus blue, in a mature system. But we are not there yet. We are far from it. So, we need to just break what we have right now and then slowly start having two blocks of red versus blue and hopefully have a scenario where one time the Reds win and then the other time the Blues win, and then people can judge for themselves there. But in terms of what will happen in 2024, I'm with the majority that says I don't see the African National Congress going past 50%. I'm just wondering how they'll react to them failing to get past 50%. What are they going to do? That much I don't know. I don't trust them, and I wouldn't put it past them to actually scorch the earth in response.
Oh, well, thank you for that happy thought. Rob, your chance to answer this one.
Yeah, look, I think 2024 is going to be incredibly interesting. My general feeling is that the ANC might drop below 50. I'm not holding any thumbs there. There's a huge percentage of the population that simply isn't voting right now, and if they did vote, I think we'd see the ANC getting way more than 50%. There's a lot of ANC voters who are too despondent to even pitch up at the polls. But you never know. They might pull their rabbit out the hat and present something that saves the country economically through Chinese promises or something similar to that. But I think even what we mustn't forget to consider is that there's a lot of talk about coalition parties as well. Now, that happens on both sides of the voting results. If the ANC drop below 50%, I guarantee you they will form coalitions with the other smaller parties that are in Parliament, those ones that are the loyalists and have supported them in many many votes before. So it could go either way. If they drop to say 47%, it's very simple to form a coalition with one or two of those parties and push them above 50% again. There'll be definitely interesting times, but the whole idea of waiting for the elections to bring about change it's a question of time. Do we have that time? We've seen such an incredible downward thrust since in the past 818 days that we mustn't forget that it's 2 years until the elections. A lot can happen in that time as well. And if we continue on the downward trajectory that we are, I just sometimes wonder if we'll even make it to the elections. And then what happens after elections? Things won't happen the next day. They certainly won't. They take at least 2 election cycles before we'll see any positive change. If a coalition party came in, comprised majority of the TA, I promise you they'll, as Koketso rightly pointed out, they'll have to deal with a scorched earth. There's no way that the transition will happen smoothly. I can absolutely assure that. And we'll more than likely, if the ANC does lose, we'll see international groups like the United Nations coming in to step into the country to ensure that a smooth process and handover and transition does take place. And that brings a whole lot of other problems with it as well. Then we'll have those forces here in the country for many years to come, and restrictions in place. There'll no doubt be financial restrictions from all the big lenders and conditions attached to that. So we're in for a rough time. And if we think it's going to be over within 10, 15, or even 20 years' time, I don't believe it will. It's going to take that long to fix up the mess that's happened over the past 10 years. It really is. Honestly, I live in hope. I do see the positive side of it, and I do believe we will eventually pull out of it. And I also believe that South Africa will become one of the major global players eventually. We've got everything set up here. We just have no clue how to use it. Someone threw away the instruction manual or change it into 14 different languages, and no one can read it. That's all. But we need to regain that knowledge. We need to reignite ourselves, and then we can realize our true potential. But unfortunately, it's going to have to be something I personally have to do for my kids. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. And yeah, that's just how we deal with it. But it will happen. But through no doing but our own.
Yeah, you guys are a real ray of sunshine tonight. Look, I knew that this conversation was going to be bleak. I mean, 818 days of absolute nonsense, and now we are in a worse situation than ever before in South Africa. Unemployment rate at the rate that hasn't been seen since World War II, I believe, and World War I, the Great Depression, all that stuff, and
John,
inflation.
If I can jump in there, sorry, just to interrupt you there. It's what you're saying has just sparked another thought there. We mustn't pin our hopes on one single solution here. It's the elections aren't going to provide that single solution. It's going to be a collective effort from all sectors of society, from people who
Yeah.
oppose each other. Even it's that's the only way forward. And it's, the sooner we realize that, the better for us all. Then we can get that ball rolling.
That is true. I do think it's going to be a mix of, like you said, civil society, such as Dearest A, Action Society, AfriForum, and the list goes on and on, all these great civil society organizations. It's also going to be a mix of, I don't know, democracy, whatever is left of it, if there is any of it left, and the will of the people. I do think that slowly but surely, South Africans are getting more hurtful of the situation. I mean, again, 818 days of ridiculous regulations, and then we were immediately hit with stage 6 load shedding. It just feels like ANC is trying to just slowly suffocate the South African economy, and by doing so, killing a lot of people, figuratively and literally. So, gents, we're almost at the end of the conversation. And as I was saying, I think I knew that this conversation was going to be a little bit bleak. Because people unfortunately need to hear this. We can't always talk about, rainbows and unicorns the entire time. There has to be there has to be truth put out there, and this is the truth. Yes, South Africa is doing really bad at the moment. It's not necessarily the people's fault. It's definitely the government's fault. But we cannot rely, as Rob said, and 100% correct, we cannot rely on the government. That mentality needs to stop. We need to do what we can in our communities to help one another survive what is probably going to be a very tough 10 to 20 years. And it's no doubt going to be somewhat exciting for guys like myself and Koketso and Rob. I mean, we definitely like to watch everything evolve, and then we commentate and cock on people. It's nice. But which reminds me, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to subscribe to Manpatria. They have a great podcast over there where they also commentate on events happening in South Africa. And don't forget to also check out Dearest A civil society group that has done wonders for South Africans. They've got a lot of campaigns that you can get behind, so please go check them out. Speaking of which, gents, as we end off, I'm going to give you a chance to just quickly, maybe try and end on a positive note. And as you do so, tell people where they can find you. And I have linked your social media in the description below, as well as Manpatria and Dearest A. But yeah, Koketso, go ahead.
Yeah, so for those who don't know Manpatria, it's a YouTube channel. Let's start there. But yeah, there's also a podcast with myself, Dumodenga, and Zuzogati. We just three more than average looking guys who, yeah, like to look back at the week of current events, etc., and also try to give the kind of conversation that you have at the braai stand, you have at the coffee table, that you won't necessarily see when you turn on the TV or radio or even go into certain circles on social media. But maybe my positive note would be this. Having come out of this lockdown now, I do have to say that I'm noticing quite the silence from those who are very eager to insult and call us names and create new lexicon for people like me and Joe and Rob. I'm seeing a silence now, and that's for me. That spells one thing and one thing only: that there is a social ridicule now of people's grand radical ideas, which take away, firstly, common sense, and secondly, take away the values that people actually hold dear to heart. I don't like looking at people and assuming that they were not raised well by their parents or their guardians, etc. I'd like to give everyone that benefit of the doubt, and I don't believe anyone was raised to be an idiot, if I can put it like that. So yeah, a lot of the willful ignorance is starting to fade, and those who are guilty of having perpetuated really much of the hate, etc., they're quiet now. And that's all for the better. That tells me that society in general is starting to shun away all the negative stuff we saw from the past 800 days and is coming back to a sense of reason. And I hope it stays like that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, very astute observation, by the way. That's very true. Rob, your turn. Leave on a positive note if you can, and where people can find you.
A positive note. Oh, okay. It's going to be
Is it that hard? Okay.
no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think what you got to do is it's very easy to look way into the future and see disaster because that's what we're taught to do. That's what the media forces us to do. Look at the impending doom that's coming out over the horizon. And when we do that, we lose focus of what's right by us. And I think that's what we need to do as society is wake up and stop looking so far down the line, because you will only see disaster. There's your path right down to there is unclear, but there's many little successes. There's many opportunities, especially in South Africa, many opportunities to make a difference, to make those positive things stand out, and then celebrate those little things, whatever they might be. I mean, a good example is I'm sure we've been involved in that court case against the adoption of the health regulations. Some positive results from that. The government has withdrawn some of the regulations, and it looks like they're going to go ahead and withdraw others. There's a positive step towards change. And there was you mentioned a great thing earlier on, that we're seeing an awake happening in civil society, and that's wonderful. Right down to the individual level, people are far more aware of what's going on, and they're starting to question. That's a positive thing in my eyes. The more people question, the better. Question authority. If anything that we've learned over the past 818 days is you have to question authority. And I'm not saying that in a rebellious nature at all, but authority is there to be questioned. We need to reignite that critical thinking element again and start asking hard questions. Don't avoid them. Just bring them out. The more questions we ask, the more answers we'll get. And from those answers will come solutions. And that's how we have to go ahead as a society together. Let's solve the problems. And I promise you, there's lots of work. If you look around, there's lots of work that needs to be done. But anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Let's step up to the plate and let's actually go. I'm actually very positive about the future. I just think it's going to take time, but the sooner we start it, the sooner we start getting that ball rolling, the better for us all. The better for us all. Let's get out there and do something.
Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, I've linked Rob's Twitter page in the description below if you want to go give him a follow, and DRSA as well, where you can also find their website and all the information on DRSA. Rob, a special thank you to you for giving an hour of your time. I know you're a very busy man, and all the work that you do at DRSA. I will obviously have you on the show again to get an update on what is happening in the courts with your battle against the health minister. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks, I'm sure. Koketso, thank you very much for joining me as well on this special conversation, 818 Days of Tyranny. You definitely shed some very good facts, and I thank you very much for your time as well. Yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. So have a good night, and thanks again for joining.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much. Cheerio.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Koketso Resane and Rob Hutchinson. Rob Hutchinson from DRSA, Koketso from Man Patriot, ladies and gentlemen. And I just wanted to bring up a comment. I almost forgot to bring it up earlier. South African living in the UK, definitely grass is not green on, never has been. True. I've always said, every country is pretty much effed up. You just got to decide which country is acceptable to live in, I guess. Me living in 3 different countries, South Africa for me is definitely the best one. And I intend to stay here. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to give a super chat, please don't. Go to the link in the description below. Support my fight against cancel culture. It'd be greatly appreciated. If 500 people give $60, I would have reached my goal, and I can go to the courts and fight my legal battle against cancel culture. All the information is on that link. Some videos there that you can check out. It will take you a total of 10 to 15 minutes to find out all the details. So please do help me fight my fight against cancel culture. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure when I'll be back with load shedding. I really take it day by day because the stages keep on changing, and it's crazy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back. I just don't know when, but do look out for my video with Ian Cameron. What happened to him today is just unbelievable, and we'll be talking more about that. So look out for that video releasing tomorrow, latest Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you. I almost screwed up my outro. See, this is what happens when I don't stream enough. I get out of the groove and I forget how to say bye. Let me try that again. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you at the next one. There we go. I did it. Cheers.